the initial code that was run was able to resuscitate the patient, and he now needed a little bit more of cardiovascular support. That would be the right thing to do. If there was a pause, that would be the next thing that we want to proceed with. In this case, when there was drug-induced respiratory and cardiovascular failure, but it's not a case of too little, too late. It seems like a case of too late because Dr. Murray was not able to give me the time or the time interval. What I feared was that time was not on Mr. Jackson's side, that we were running too late.
Okay.
Mr. Walgren, at a convenient point.
This is fine, Your Honor.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to take the noon break at this time, right at noon. Please remember all the admonitions, both the written admonitions as well as my continuing verbal admonitions. We will take the noon break. Please enjoy your lunch, and the court itself will be in recess until 1:30 this afternoon. We'll see you again at 1:30. Enjoy your lunch.
That UCLA, that we would not give up easily on Mr. Jackson and try to save his life. To show him our good faith, we moved forward even though we suspected that it was futile.
Okay. And again, whose idea was it then to do the balloon pump? Was it Dr. Cruz? Was it Dr. Murray? Who was it?
Dr. Cruz.
Okay. And did you have any success when Dr. Cruz made the decision to use the balloon pump?
Fortunately for us, the procedure of placing the balloon pump was very smooth. One stick, and we got into the artery, and we placed the balloon pump. But as we suspected, it didn't achieve anything. It couldn't bring back life.
Okay. And to be clear, Dr. Cruz was the attending cardiologist?
Yes.
Okay, and you were working under him, essentially?
Yes, I was the fellow at that time, and Dr. Cruz was the attending.
Okay. And after the attempt was made with the balloon pump without success, was it shortly after that that pronouncement of death occurred at 2:26 p.m.?
Even before the balloon pump placement, we made an agreement with Dr. Murray that this would be the last attempted procedure on Mr. Jackson. We'd like to prepare Dr. Murray mentally to accept the fact that Mr. Jackson could not be rescued and would allow Mr. Jackson to depart in peace and with dignity. So we propose that if this would not work, we would call it stop.
Okay.
We would not try other procedures.
And is that what happened?
Yes.
Okay, and he was pronounced dead shortly thereafter?
Yes.
And again, during these ongoing conversations up through and including these conversations about the balloon pump, did Dr. Murray ever once mention administering propofol to Michael Jackson?
No.
Thank you. Nothing further, Your Honor.
Mr. Walgren, thank you. Cross-examination by the defense. Mr. Flanagan?
Dr. Nguyen, what time were you called to come to the emergency room?
Shortly before 1:35, because I remembered that when I was seeing Dr. Murray and talking to him, I looked at my pager and noticed that the time on my pager indicated 1:35.
Okay. How long before 1:35 were you called?
A minute.
And where were you when you were called?
I was in the rounding room of the cardiac critical care unit on the 7th floor.
When you arrived in the trauma unit, who's the first person you talked to?
Dr. Rochelle Cooper, but only to say hi, and she immediately pointed to Dr. Murray and introduced me to Dr. Murray.
May we have just a moment, please? We're going to give you a cup so you can have the plastic container below you, because it may interfere with the sight line. That way you'll have the water. If you need more water, you let us know.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry for the interruption.
So the only conversation you had with Dr. Cooper was to say hi.
She immediately said, that is the physician for Mr. Jackson, Dr. Murray. She introduced us. That's about it.
How had you been notified to come?
She asked she paged me.
Okay, so when you walked into that room, you didn't know who was there.
No, I knew who was there
How'd you
because
know?
when she requested assistance, it was a code for a VIP patient named Michael Jackson. So I knew that Michael Jackson was down there.
So when she paged you, she told you it was a VIP named Michael Jackson.
Yes.
And so you went in and you didn't ask Dr. Cooper what the situation was or anything?
No, I asked Dr. Murray first.
Why would you ask Dr. Murray first?
He's the primary source.
Wasn't the doctor in charge, Dr. Cooper?
I will talk to her next. That's the plan. But for this is not atypical for a case that the CCU service was requested and there was EMS still there. I always went to the source first and then went back to the UCLA attending physicians and nursing staff.
So
later.
the first information you got on this case relative to what was going on was to talk to Dr. Murray.
That's correct.
And he told you that Mr. Jackson was having difficulty sleeping and had called him to his bedside to give him something to go to sleep.
He didn't say call to the bedside. He said Mr. Jackson had difficulty sleeping. He was tired from the preparation, practice, rehearsal for the concert tour in England and asked for some sleeping aid to help him sleep. But he didn't really say the word called him to the bedside.
Okay. So Mr. Jackson asked him for something to help him in sleep.
Yes.
And Dr. Murray told you that he had used lorazepam.
Ativan 4 milligram IV was his exact words.
Okay. Did he tell you that it had been given in 2 separate doses of 2 milligrams?
No, he did not.
Did he tell you that he'd also had Valium?
No, he did not. Actually, he answered negatively to my question as to whether there were any sedatives or narcotics involved.
Did he tell you he'd also had Flomax?
No, he did not say that either.
Okay, so, but you know that Dr. Murray told Dr. Cooper about these drugs, don't you?
I did not know that at the time I was talking to Dr. Murray. No, I did not.
Well, you know now, though.
Yes, after the fact.
And Dr. Cooper had been told the 2 milligram doses, correct?
She might have not. I would not be able to tell.
And after he told you about the Ativan, 4 milligrams, he really didn't give you any other information, did he?
No, he did not.
You asked him when he had given it to him. He said he didn't recall.
Correct.
You asked him when he noticed that there was an arrest. He didn't recall.
He did not recall the time.
And you asked him when EMS or the emergency medical services arrived.
No, my question was when did you call EMS, not when the EMS arrived, I believed.
You didn't, this report here, I guess you didn't write this investigation report, did you?
I did not write an investigation report.
Okay. So if you were quoted by the police officers who took your statement that you asked him when EMS arrived at the scene, that would just be, they're misquoting you.
I couldn't say for sure.
Okay. And he did not know.
He did not know. Basically, he did not know.
He basically, after he told you he'd had Ativan, gave you no additional information.
To the answers that I asked.
Okay. Did you kind of get the impression that he wasn't too interested in talking to you?
It is not my impression that he was not interested in talking to me. It is from his replies to my questions, I have some concerns. Number one, as I said, time was not on our side. Number two, Ativan 4 milligram IV, even though it was quite unusual to give IV for insomnia in the outpatient setting, it was not a typically very large dose in the inpatient setting. But the fact is that the patient was lying there, lifeless,
Your Honor,
on
could this be
ventilator
stricken?
support.
I don't think there's a question pending, and I don't think she's answering a question.
I'm going to allow the answer thus far to remain. There being no objection, you can ask your next question.
4 milligrams of Ativan. Should that put a patient to sleep?
It typically could put a patient to sleep, yes,
Fact is,
especially IV.
if you were going to put a patient to sleep with the Raspam, you'd start off with 1 milligram, wouldn't you?
PO, sir. PO, by mouth.
Okay, just
A
one.
pill.
And 1 milligram IV would be a little bit stronger than by mouth, wouldn't it?
Definitely, yes.
But you, even if you were doing it by mouth, you'd start off with 1 milligram.
Yes, the indications for using Ativan for insomnia, the typical adult dosage recommendations would be 2 to 4 milligrams PO. But I do not typically use Ativan by mouth or by IV in the outpatient setting, if at all, that we need to use it to treat insomnia. It's usually in the inpatient setting. And
So-
I don't typically use that in the inpatient setting either. There are other drugs that are non-sedatives, non-narcotics.
So the recommended dosage for a normal adult for insomnia would be 2 to 4 milligrams of Ativan?
PO, yes, by micromedics.
And how long would it take, if you did that by IV, to produce sleep?
By IV to produce sleep, what is the dose, sir, that you were asking
Well,
about?
let's go back to let's go to 2 milligrams. How long would that take, put a person to sleep by IV?
It was pretty quick, but it all depends on the host, really. It is pretty quick,
When you say pretty quick, how long?
5, 7 minutes.
5 or 7 minutes?
Yeah. But again, I said it depends on the host, especially on hosts that are naive. They could go to sleep very quickly. For people who are typically drug users who use a lot stronger narcotics than that, it might take them longer because they have a higher drug tolerance. So nothing is set in stone. That's why I always go low and then titrate it up to reach the desired effect.
Okay, if we get back to the original question, the 2 milligrams, you'd expect that to cause a person to go to sleep within 5 or 6 minutes.
Yes.
And how long would they sleep?
Hours. The half time to eliminate the drug by IV is coded as 14 hours plus or minus 5 hours.
So would they be asleep that entire time?
Not necessarily. As I said, it depends on the host. What has been going on with the host? Are there other drugs on board? Have they been active throughout the day? What is their physical state? What is their health status? It all depends on that. But if they go to sleep after 1 or 2 milligram PO, usually they can sleep through the night. They wouldn't wake up at 1 in the morning and ask for a little bit more. That's not what I typically see in the inpatient setting.
Okay, and then if they didn't go to sleep and another 2 milligrams were given, you'd expect that to put them to sleep for sure, wouldn't you?
Yes, if they have not had developed very high drug tolerance.